Hello everyone, welcome back to Chasing Rank. Hopefully you are doing well. We are back with another video. Today it is my updated game week 1 draft. So if you've been enjoying all the content here on the channel, make sure you smash a huge subscription and a massive like on the video because it helps massively. We've seen some absolutely fantastic growth through the preseason and we are all very, very keen to support everybody in our community to chase their rank all the way hopefully to #1 in FPL. And I'm not going to stall the video for much longer because it is a very, very, very big video for us today. So let me know if you like the structure of this video as well. I'm just going to talk through my team. I'm not going to have heaps of different graphics like we do on the podcast, but if you do want to see deeper thought around our teams, especially going into game week 1 and game week 2 now, make sure Tuesday nights, Australian Central Standard Time at 8 p.m. We are live every Tuesday night. So if you want to get your questions answered and have a little bit of fun talking about FPL, make sure you join that as well. So I know it's not perfect for our UK audience, but for our Australian audience, that is 8:30 Eastern and 6 o'clock Western. So make sure you're there. Now, kicking off in goals, we're going with Robert Sanchez and we're going with Dubravka. Now, I'm going to try and add the team in on the fly, so I'm sorry if I'm sort of looking this way and then looking that way because my laptop is to the right of me. But Robert Sanchez, I don't think much needs to be spoken about Robert Sanchez. I personally think he's the best at 5 million out of him and Sells and Vicario, because with Sells and Vicario, you can cover other aspects of their defences at the same or similar price point. So my concerns with Chelsea are more about, I don't really want Chalobah, I don't want Tosin, Gusto, James at right back. I don't love that at this stage because James is fit. And Cucurella's at 6 million, and I'm not a huge fan of the 6 million defenders, and I have been pretty vocal about that through the live stream. So Sanchez just gives me a safe 5 million route into the Chelsea defense, and his ownership is actually starting to really creep up. It was around the 15-16% at the start of the week. It's up to 21.1%. I think he's becoming very, very template for our side. So Robert Sanchez, great fixtures there. Crystal Palace, West Ham, Fulham, Brentford, Man United, Brighton, Liverpool. Really will get us through to those wild cards, hopefully, later on. Dubravka, I don't think we need to talk too much about Martin Dubravka. Hopefully goes in game week 2 as the starting goalkeeper. Hopefully they just throw him out there against Tottenham. You know, they've sold Trafford. I think there's an option there for him to be that player. So that is my goalkeeper position. You can see we've got 91 million in the bank. I'm trying not to move too much, but I have found the first couple players that are in my defense. It is Murillo. It is Tarkovsky. I'm just going to search off to the side. It is Pedro Porro. I'm going to talk about these three at the same time. Now, I'm not going to do big reveals all the time, but for these guys, because it's 5.5 million defenders, you might be saying, Pauly, that is a lot of money in your defense. And we'll talk through my team, and then I'll talk through a structure that I do have off to the side. I am sort of debating between two structures at the moment, but this is the one where I feel the most safe. This gives me a great DC floor. Murillo, Tarkovsky, and Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is really, really underrated for defensive contributions. This morning against PSG on set pieces, gets the assist, very, very attacking. I'm a huge fan of this Pedro Porro pick. Yes, you have to cop the Man City away game in game week 2, but barring that, Burnley, Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Wolves, and Leeds in the first 7, I think you need minimum one piece of the Tottenham defence. Yes, they ended up drawing 2-2 this morning, but for 85, 90 minutes of that game, Tottenham looked really, really good. From what I saw mostly the second half of that game, it was on very, very early here in Australia, they looked really strong under Thomas Frank, and what I liked was in the big games, they went 3-5-2. I expect Tottenham against Burnley, against Bournemouth to play 4-3-3 like Thomas Frank did at Brentford, but I'm expecting against Man City to sit in a 3-5-2 and really sit in nice and deep. So I think the Tottenham defence is worth buying into. Yes, they conceded 2 goals. The first goal by Lee Kang-in was fantastic, and then they did a Spursy thing, but it doesn't matter. I think they're going to be all right under Thomas Frank. Next up is Tarkovsky. Now, he's been a recent addition into my sides, and not because I wasn't aware of the DC points. It was more about his fitness. So his ownership is creeping up. It's up to 7% now. I think by the deadline Saturday morning, it is going to be significantly higher. When I say Saturday morning, I mean Saturday morning my time. Leeds, Brighton, Wolves, Villa, Liverpool, West Ham, Crystal Palace. Great first 7 games there as well. Good floor with defensive contributions. And if he can pinch maybe 3 clean sheets in that as well, maybe Leeds, Wolves, and maybe West Ham at home, if they can get 3 clean sheets there, you're absolutely laughing. With a Tarkovsky, just the one thing to monitor is the Branthwaite injury news. It sounds like he won't be fit for game week 1, which is a little bit disappointing. I still think at 5.5, he's probably the best option there. Well, these are the 3 best options. And then Murillo has pretty much been in my team since the game came out. When I found out his baseline defensive contribution numbers, I just thought he just needs to be in my team. Milenkovic, wasn't bad for defensive contributions, but he matched Murillo from the goals that he scored. I just think the defensive contributions are going to be a little bit more predictable than the goals for Nottingham Forest. So I'm backing the defensive side of the game here a bit more than the attacking side, which is fine if you want to chase the upside short term with Milenkovic and see if he can score 2 goals in the first 10 weeks, fair enough. But I almost think Murillo's a pick that won't leave my side almost all year unless Forest really struggle with Europe. So I'm very, very keen on the Forest opening fixtures, and it didn't feel right not having a Nottingham Forest defender. And I'm not a huge fan of Nico Williams because of the rumours around them getting a left back. Does that mean he plays at right back? I just think for our game week 1 teams, there's no point in taking that risk. There are some risks that I don't mind, but that's not one that I am about. Now, my other defenders, we are going with Anderson of Fulham, and that is for a couple of reasons. Game week 4 and game week 5, he is definitely a playable asset. That could be a potential bench boost time for me. And he's probably playable in game weeks 1 and 2 as well. He's pretty much only not playable in game week 3. Doesn't mean he's going to play in all those games for me, but if you get a niggle, if someone gets a red card, he will definitely play in game weeks 4 and game week 5 if we do go through my team a little bit later. But he is someone who I don't mind bringing on. Fulham really underperformed their defensive data last season, and he was fantastic for defensive contributions. So if Fulham's defensive numbers can regress a little bit more to the mean, and he has the defensive contribution numbers, I think 2% ownership for him is absolutely laughable. So he is definitely locked in my side, as is Esteve from Burnley. Again, he was averaging 12 defensive contributions from a Burnley team that was one of the best teams in the championship. They are going to do a lot of defending. Hopefully it means Esteve can have some 4-point floors, which is where you're seeing this Sunderland and Nottingham Forest floor, is because they're projecting him, even though they're potentially better clean sheet games, they're actually probably projecting more of an opportunity for them to get defensive contributions because, and probably not concede the goals. Like when they look at Liverpool at home, it's 2.9 points because he's probably going to get the defensive contributions, but they're going to concede 2 or 3 goals. So not looking to play Esteve every single week. I think Sunderland, Nottingham Forest, and then I think Leeds are in there at some point as well. So I'm pretty happy with that back 5. Let me know down in the comments so far what your thoughts are of my team as we move into the midfield. Now, I'm going to go with the big boys first. Mo Salah, I don't think we need to talk too much about Mohamed Salah. Yes, he didn't have a great Community Shield final against Crystal Palace. I don't care. His ownership is just trickling down nice and steadily, which is good for me, because I'm going to be captaining him in game week 1 against Bournemouth, because I don't think I can watch that game as a Liverpool fan and not own Mohamed Salah. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Do I think he's the best fantasy asset? 100% I do. I don't think I could play this game and not start the season with Mohamed Salah. Doesn't mean I won't finish with him, but I don't think I can go into a season where we've just won the league and we've got all these attacking pieces. I just cannot go into the season without Mohamed Salah. So I am definitely locking him away. I don't think we need to talk about Mohamed Salah. Everyone knows what he does, so he's in my side. He's going to be a captain most weeks. Cole Palmer, again, pretty much has not left my team since the game dropped. Yes, he had a fantastic Club World Cup final. I don't love how many attacking options there are at Chelsea, but at 10.5, I just think he can make an absolute mockery of that price. I reckon he could easily be 12 million. And then it'd be a conversation. I'd say anything under 11 million, I'd be definitely locking him in. 11.5 million even, I'd probably be locking him in. So he is in the team. Now, next, definitely not going with Bukayo Saka. It's between Bruno Fernandes and Florian Wirtz. And at this stage, I am on Bruno Fernandes. I feel like we've covered Bruno so much on the channel. We've spoken at length about his defensive contributions, his creativity. I just love this opening. I don't love the opening stretch of fixtures, but I just love Bruno Fernandes for the opportunities that he brings. Corners, free kicks, penalties, defensive contributions, goals, assists. He just does it all at 9 million. Proven asset in the league, and he should be pushing 200 points this year. So Bruno is in the team. Now, this is where my team starts to get spicy. In the midfield, we are going with Elliot Anderson, number 1. 5.5 midfielder, DC, beast in the team. Just baseline of 4 points pretty much every game, which is, 2 points for an appearance, 2 points for his defensive contributions. Any attacking returns would be nice. Thanks for coming, Anderson. The other slot is Reinders. Now, this could be Dewsbury Hall, and I have run this team with Dewsbury Hall in it, and I wasn't really sure where to spend that extra 0.5 million. So I thought, well, if I'm not going to spend the 0.5, I might as well just get Tiani Reinders. Now, we don't have heaps of data about what his output's going to look like, other than him scoring a double in a half against Palermo, which, again, is not Premier League opposition, which is fair enough. But if you can get a box-to-box midfielder from Man City in your team for 5.5 million that plays 80% of the minutes, I think you got to take a punt on it at 5.5. Marmouche, yes, he's probably going to start, but you're paying 8.5 for Marmouche. I think if you're going to take a risk, and it's the only risk in your team, I think this is the way to do it. So Tiani Reinders in at 5.5 could be somebody who does break the game. I think he could be a midfielder that really gets, 10 goals, 10 assists this year. I think Man City are going to go on an absolute tear, and I think he's going to be part of it. So I don't have heaps of analysis to talk through about Tiani Reinders. He is a high production, creative midfielder from his time at AC Milan. But I'm really, really keen on this pick, and I just can't not go in with Man City. So at the moment, that is my midfield. So let me know what you would change. Would you go with 6.5, and then would you, go 4.5? But there's a reason why we don't have a 4.5, and it's because up front we have a 4.5 in Mark Guiu. Again, I'm not super keen on having bench fodder, but it's the only way I can get a team that I'm happy with, so I'll roll with it. Now, this next pick, I'm not set on this one as well. This is one that's up for change. It is João Pedro. Now, at 55% ownership, he's more owned than Mohamed Salah. His Club World Cup and preseason form was absolutely incredible. I've spoken about him at length as well this offseason. At times I've said I'm not a fan of it because of the minutes. I'm not a fan of it because he's off penalties. But the question is, if he can get to 75 minutes a game, how many chances is this Chelsea team going to create for João Pedro? That's the difference. At Brighton, he was only getting a couple chances a game and he was having to put them away. João Pedro, if he's getting 4 chances a game, he's scoring 1 or 2 of them. So at this point, it is João Pedro. I'm going to talk about another 7.5 striker a little bit later who's in my thoughts, which is why he's in the other draft. The other draft I'm going to show you is another concept of a team that I'm very keen on, but that 7.5 striker is more a price point for me than somebody who's locked in. If the deadline was happening tonight, it's probably João Pedro. I think I'd go with Pedro because it's less risky to miss on that versus a Mateta or a Chris Wood, but I don't love it. So let me know in the comments in that 7.5 million slot where you're going. As you can tell on the screen, there's 9 million left, and it is Ollie Watkins. Watkins is in my draft, and this is the big contention point that we're going to talk about a little bit later. 23.2% owned, but it's the fixtures. It's Newcastle who look shaky. It's Brentford who have had an absolute tear away of their team. Crystal Palace won't be easy, but there should be goals there. Everton away won't be easy, but then Sunderland, Fulham, Burnley. I love that. The fixtures beyond that are still solid as well. I can't show you that here on Hub, but that is my early team. Ollie Watkins is the talisman for this Aston Villa attack, and I just think he's just going to keep rolling on. So let's optimize my team. It's coming in at a 96 overall ranking, which if you then did see my short that went out yesterday, this is that team. So that is what the team looks like for game week 1 if I am on this option. What I like about this team, I love the 3 5.5 defenders. I'm very, very keen on that, and I'm keen on the 3 premium midfielders and Ollie Watkins. That's what's setting my structure up. Now, I guess another option I've got is João Pedro could easily come out, and I probably wouldn't want to go to Evan Nilsson either. Like, I don't mind Evan Nilsson because I do like him long term, but again, do you go Evan Nilsson and then Reinders in at 6 million becoming a Yuri Tielemans or a Minte? There's potential there. I think that Minte's numbers have started to drop away a little bit. Jorginho seems to be a bit more favoured as sort of the striker or the 10, but there's Matt O'Reilly. I'm not sold a lot in this 6 bracket. Tielemans is more just a safe play. So it's like, do you just go with 2 safe mids there in Tielemans, Anderson, and Evan Nilsson? So if we make those moves and optimise the team, it still sits at a 96. So that is a potential where if I want to keep Ollie Watkins, you just ride the one bad game week with Evan Nilsson, and then you get Wolves. Spurs isn't fantastic, but then hopefully there's goals in that and Power is involved. Then you get Brighton, Newcastle, Leeds, Fulham. Again, far from the worst option. Or you've got another option, you can go Strand Larson, and then this can turn into a 6.5 mid, who could end up being an Njai or a Sarr. So for argument's sake, if you put in a Sarr in that team, and you save that because that's your team, you're still sitting at a 96 team rating but a 93 game week rating. So they are a couple options that I've got. I think I prefer the 7.5 million forwards anyway. So if we go to the forwards and we go João Pedro, and then at 5.5 million, I think Hub actually suggests Dewsbury Hall at 5, which is interesting. They do suggest Dewsbury Hall. I'm going to put Reinders in, because that is technically what my team is at this stage. So 96 team rating, 95 game week run rating. This is another concept of a team that I have, which they both have a 95 game week 1 rating, but this one comes in at a 98 overall. Now, when I said that I prioritize the 5 million or 5.5 million defenders, I've kept the exact same back 5. I've got the same 5 defenders, and Sanchez are in the team. So it ticks a lot of those boxes. Then from a midfield, it ticks the boxes of, I've got Salah, Palmer, Vert, and Bruno Fernandes, but you're sacrificing Anderson for Dewsbury Hall, but then you're going Strand Larson, and you still keep the 7.5 price point up front. Mateta is just in there as the placeholder for this draft, because I think he's going to be a bit more of a 90-minute man, but then I'm now concerned that there are some transfer rumours with him potentially leaving Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace is just a team where I'm almost wanting to just stay away from them at this point, because they're just, Eze's linked away, Mateta's now linked away, the Gahey stuff's still there, so there's just a lot of concerns that I have. So even if that was to become João Pedro, it's still a 95, I think, and a 98. No, it's not. It's 95 and a 97. So Mateta's bringing up the 0.1 by 1.1%. So anyway, I'm really stuck between where I go. I think if the deadline was tonight and not tomorrow night, this is probably the team I go in with. There's a world where I go, you could go Reinders to Dewsbury Hall, and then you could go João Pedro and then pick up Jared Bowen even. So if we go to the 8 million forwards, Jared Bowen still comes in at, 20 predicted points. So it's how much more do you gain by going Jared Bowen? Because they do have some tougher games after game week 1. So you gain the game week 1 matchup. I am a little bit stuck when it comes to these forwards. They're all, you can see, you actually can't see it. But on this side here, Mateta's coming in at 23 predicted points, Woods at 20, Pedro's at 20, Evan Nilsson's at 20, Bowen's at 20, and Strand Larson's at 17. So there is just a few options there to consider. I think the João Pedro and Reinders options there are really just... I actually think there's really high upside there. And, I saw some interesting stuff on Twitter this week, and it's like talking about we've got double the chips this year. So I actually feel like there's a world where you can take a little bit more risk early because you've got more opportunity to save it later on. So that is my current team. I think this is what's locked in. You can see there's probably the Watkins, Reinders move is probably the one that's there. It's like, do you go Watkins and Reinders, or do you go Strand Larson and Vert? So let me know in the comments. Would you go option 1, Watkins, Reinders, or would you go option 2 in Strand Larson and Florian Wirtz? But thank you for staying this long in the video. Make sure you smash the subscribe button if you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you very, very soon for another video.